The master bedroom of Yoon Haram's mansion had become too beautiful to feel human. Crystal chandeliers hung above polished marble floors. Warm afternoon sunlight poured through enormous windows overlooking gardens so perfectly trimmed they looked painted. Fresh orchids stood beside machines that measured the slow decline of a man everyone in the house had already begun mourning in advance. The room had everything money could buy. Private monitors, imported medical equipment, designer furniture, hand-carved wooden panels, silk bedding, security outside the door. And at the center of it all, Yoon Haram lay beneath a dark luxury blanket, wearing black silk sleepwear, his handsome face sharpened by illness and exhaustion. He was only in his late 20s, too young to look like a rumor of himself, too powerful to be pitted openly, too sick for people to remember how to speak to him like a living man. Near the windows, his uncle Yoon Cheol-min spoke softly with Dr. Min Sahak. "His condition is progressing," Dr. Min said. Haram's eyes remained half-closed, but he heard every word. People always assumed sickness made hearing useless. It did not. It only made response expensive. Cheol-min sighed with practiced sorrow. The board is asking whether he can still review urgent matters. He needs rest. Of course. But Murung House cannot freeze because my nephew is unwell. My nephew. Not chairman. Not Haram. Not even him. A possession under discussion. At the foot of the bed, had butler Song Maiji adjusted the flowers though they did not need adjusting. 2 junior physicians checked charts. A nurse removed a tray from the side table, untouched porridge, cold tea, pills arranged in a porcelain cup. "Nobody waits long enough," a woman's voice said from the doorway. Every head turned. Nayila Kardi stood there holding a wooden breakfast tray. She was not dressed like the staff. She wore an elegant cream knit sweater, fitted camel trousers, and a simple pendant at her throat. Her long natural curls fell over her shoulders, catching the sunlight. Behind her stood her mother, Abina Kardi, the longtime maid of the Yoon household, in her immaculate uniform. Song Maiji stiffened. "Miss Kardi, you are not authorized to enter this room." Nayila looked at the tray being carried away. "I saw 3 meals come back almost full. That is not your concern." "It becomes my concern when everyone calls it refusal, but nobody asks whether the food smells like medicine and cold silver."
Dr. Min frownet.
"Who is this?" Abina stepped forward carefully. "My daughter, sir. She is helping me for a few days. Then she should help downstairs." Nayila did not move. Her eyes were on Haram, not with fear, not curiosity, not pity. She looked at him as though she saw the person beneath the illness, and that was so rare it made Haram open his eyes fully. Nayila walked closer before anyone stopped her. "I made mild pumpkin beef soup," she said. "Fresh ginger tea. Small portion. No pressure." Cheol-min's expression cooled. "This is inappropriate." Haram's voice came rough from the bed. "Let her." The room froze. It had been days since he had interrupted anyone. Nayila placed the tray on the table beside him and adjusted the angle so he could see everything without lifting his head too far. "You do not have to finish it," she said gently. "But someone should at least bring you food that smells like it was made for a person." Something moved across Haram's face. Not amusement exactly. Something older than that. Recognition, perhaps, of dignity offered without ceremony. With effort, he lifted the spoon. His hand trembled. Nayila did not grab it. She did not embarrass him with help he had not asked for. She simply steadied the bowl. He took 1 spoonful, then another. The soup was warm, simple, and not sweetened into hospital blandness. It tasted like someone had expected him to still have preferences.
Adam swallowed.
For the first time in weeks, the corner of his mouth lifted. A faint smile, small enough to vanish if named. But everyone saw it. The nurse stopped breathing.
Dr. Min starret.
Cheol-min's face tightened. Abina's eyes filled with pride she quickly lowered. Nayila only smiled back and said, "There." The room already looks less offended by sunlight. Haram almost laughed. Almost. And in a mansion where everyone had been whispering like he was already dead, that almost was enough to frighten his enemies. Haram remembered her after the 3rd spoonful. Not fully. Memory returned like light under a closed door. A girl sitting near the servant's kitchen window. A stack of borrowed cookbooks. A pencil tucked behind one ear. His father still alive then. His own name not yet heavy with blood, debt, and obedience. Nayila had been younger, waiting for Abina to finish evening work. The staff had treated her like an extra bag in the corner, something to step around. But she never looked small to Haram. She read like someone building a ladder out of pages. Once, he had found her copying recipes into a notebook. "You study food like exams," he had said. She had looked up, not frightened, just cautious. "Because hungry people become quiet," she said. "And quiet people get forgotten." He had been too young to answer that properly. But he never forgot it. Now, years later, the same girl stood beside his bed in the room where everyone had forgotten he could still choose soup. "You used to sit near the kitchen window with books," Haram said. Nayila glanced at him, surprised. "You remember that?" "I remember strange sentences." Her smile softened. "And you used to pretend you were not lonely." The room changed. Song Maiji looked scandalized. Dr. Min looked irritated. Cheolmin looked as if someone had opened a locked drawer. Haram did not look away. "Bold," he said. "True," she replied. That, too, he remembered. The quiet courage. Not loud. Not disrespectful. Just clean. After his father's death, Haram had been dragged into adulthood like a prisoner into a throne room. Private tutors became strategy advisors. Security guards became shadows. Relatives became claimants. His uncle became indispensable. By 26, Haram controlled Murung House, the family's empire of luxury real estate, private security, art storage, and imported goods that crossed borders with unusual smoothness. People called him brilliant. They also called him dangerous. They did not call him lonely. That would have required seeing him. Nayila had left the estate years ago to study culinary nutrition and home care support. Abina mentioned it sometimes when staff talked in the laundry room. She worked in a wellness kitchen, created meal plans for elderly patients, helped families feed people who had lost appetite after surgery, grief, or illness. Then layoffs came. Debt came faster. So Nayila returned temporarily to help her mother. She had not expected to enter Haram's bedroom. She had not expected him to remember her. And she had not expected the sight of him weakened beneath silk blankets to make her angry. Not at him. At the room. At the untouched meals. At the physicians speaking over him. At the relatives waiting near him with the patience of vultures in good tailoring. Abina caught her daughter's eyes near the doorway and gave the smallest warning shake of her head. "Do not go too far." Nayila understood. Powerful homes punish servants for noticing too much. But she also understood what silence did to sick people. It made them disappear while still breathing. Haram took one more spoonful, then leaned back, tired. Nayila immediately moved the tray away. "Enough for now," she said. Dr. Min stepped forward. "He should finish the medication." "After food settles," Nayila said. The doctor gave a cold laugh. "I do not recall asking for kitchen advice. And I do not recall the kitchen being the problem." The silence was sharp. Haram's eyes moved to her again. Cheolmin smiled faintly, but his gaze was hard. "Miss Carty," he said, "kindness is appreciated. Interference is not." Nayila bowed slightly. "Then I will be careful to remain kind." Haram watched her leave with the tray. The room darkened after she stepped out, though the curtains were still open. For the first time in weeks, he wanted tomorrow to come. That realization unsettled him more than the illness. Yoon Cheolmin did not need his nephew dead. Not immediately. Death created investigations, inheritance complications, mourning rituals, and dangerous questions. A dead boss could become a martyr if mishandled. A weak boss was more useful. A weak boss could be pitted in public and managed in private. A weak boss could sign papers with a shaking hand. The illness had begun after a private dinner at the Eastern Annex, 6 weeks earlier. Haram remembered the rain against the glass, the bitter tea served after the meal, and Cheolmin placing a succession restructuring document beside his cup. Temporary authority, his uncle had said. Only until your health steadies. Haram had refused. The next morning, the weakness started. At first, he thought it was stress, then exhaustion. then fever, then dizziness, then long periods where the room seemed to tilt away from him and return with missing hours. Cheolmin became gentler as Haram worsened. That was the first thing Neela noticed. Men like Cheolmin did not become gentle without profit. He controlled visitor lists for rest. He reviewed medical updates before Haram saw them. He told staff not to trouble the chairman with household matters. He instructed Dr. Min to keep him comfortable. Comfortable, Neela soon realized, was a beautiful word for quiet. On her second morning, she arrived with rice porridge, fish broth, and tea she had brewed herself downstairs. Song Maiji blocked her. Breakfast has already been served. No, Neela said. It was placed beside him, then removed after 12 minutes. That is service protocol. That is not care. Behind Song, Haram opened his eyes. Let her in. Cheolmin, who had been standing near the window, turned. You are becoming fond of kitchen rebellion, nephew. Haram's voice was thin but clear. I am becoming fond of warm food. Neela entered. She noticed everything. The medicine cup was always placed before the meal. The prescribed tea had a bitter scent beneath the herbs. Haram became foggier after Dr. Min's evening visits. The chart said patient refused breakfast, but no one waited for him to try. When Neela asked a nurse whether the timing could be adjusted, the nurse looked terrified and said, Dr. Min prefers the current schedule. Prefers. Another soft word hiding a hard order. That night, Neela began writing down times. Meal delivered, 7:10. Medication before food, 7:12. Tray removed, 7:24. Patient drowsy by 7:40. Tea from separate silver pot, not kitchen. Cheolmin visit before confusion worsened. She kept the notes folded inside her book. Abina found her writing in the laundry room. You are doing something dangerous. Neela did not deny it. He is being managed, Ma. This house has always managed people. Not like this. Abina's face tightened. She had served the Yoon family long enough to know the difference between illness and arrangement. But she had survived by keeping her eyes lowered and her memory private. You cannot fight them because you brought soup twice. No, Neela said. But I can watch. Abina touched her daughter's shoulder. Watching is what they fear servants for. Upstairs, Cheolmin stood beside Haram's bed. You know, he said softly, a man does not need to die to be replaced. He only needs everyone to agree he can no longer stand in the way. Haram looked at him through the fog. Is that concern? Cheolmin smiled. It is family realism. Haram closed his eyes. For the first time, he wondered whether his sickness had an audience waiting for applause. By the fourth day, the room had started changing in ways too small for official notice and too obvious for enemies to ignore. The curtains opened earlier. The flowers were moved away from the medicine station because Neela said the scent was too heavy. The food arrived in smaller bowls. Tea came warm, not scalding. The room was aired for 10 minutes each afternoon. Nobody spoke over Haram when he was awake because Neela had once interrupted a junior doctor by asking, would you discuss a living chairman this way if he were standing? The doctor had not answered. Haram ate little. But little was more than nothing. He slept better after food. His eyes cleared for longer stretches. He began asking for documents to be read aloud instead of accepting summaries from Cheolmin. This was when Jung Hairan returned. His former fiancée arrived in pale silk and diamonds, carrying flowers large enough to need their own apology. She had not visited in weeks. Not since the illness became less photogenic. She paused at the sight of Neela adjusting Haram's blanket. The pause was brief. Cruelty, when trained properly, wore perfume. Haram, Hairan said, softening her voice. You look better.
Doi.
A little. I wonder what changed. His eyes moved toward Neela. Hairan's smile tightened. It is touching that staff have become entertainment. Neela did not look up from the tray. Food is not entertainment when a man has been starving in a room full of silver trays. Abina, standing near the doorway, closed her eyes as if asking heaven for restraint. Haram's mouth moved. A smile.
Not faint this time.
Visible. Hairan saw it and understood instantly that she had lost something she had never bothered to protect. Cheolmin entered during the silence. His gaze took in Hiran, Nayila, the open curtains, Haram's clearer eyes, and the half-finished bowl on the tray. "This is becoming lively," he said. Haram leaned back against the pillows. That is usually what happens when people stop treating a bedroom like a waiting room for a funeral.
No one knew what to do with that.
For weeks, the household had built its rhythm around his decline. Whisper, medicate, remove trays, report weakness, repeat. Now a maid's daughter had made the dying man inconveniently present. Hiran sat beside the bed and touched his hand. He did not pull away, but he did not hold it either. "I was afraid to see you like this," she admitted. Haram studied her.
No.
"You were afraid others would see you seeing me like this." Her face flushed. Nayila quietly lifted the tray to leave. Haram's voice stopped her. "Come tomorrow." She turned. The room heard it. All of them. Song Maiji near the wall.
Dr.
Min at the chart. Cheolmin by the door. Hiran beside the bed. Abina holding her breath. Nayila answered carefully. "If your staff allows it." Haram's eyes sharpened. "I allow it." That sentence changed her status more than any title could have. Cheolmin knew it. So did Dr. Min. So did Hiran. The young boss was still weak. But he had just chosen one voice in a room full of people waiting to speak for him. And that was the first bowl of soup becoming something dangerous.
Dr.
Min Sahak disliked improvement he had not authorized. It embarrassed the chart. By the end of the week, Haram was awake longer. Not recovered. Not strong. But clearer. Eating small portions. Asking questions. Refusing the bitter tea twice. Requesting fresh air. Requesting Nayila. Dr. Min called it coincidence. A brief rally, he told Cheolmin in the hall. Nayila heard from the linen room. Patients often improve temporarily when stimulated by novelty.
Novelty.
As if dignity were a toy placed near a sickbed. Later that morning, she asked to review the meal schedule.
Dr. Min laughed softly.
"A warm bowl of soup does not make you a physician, Miss Carty." Nayila stood beside Haram's window, sunlight touching her curls. "No," she said. "But watching someone carefully makes me harder to lie to." The room fell silent. Haram, lying against the pillows, looked from her to the doctor. Dr. Min's face chilled. "You are overstepping." "She asked a question," Haram said. "She is unqualified. So are several qualified people who keep failing me." That landed harder than shouting. Dr. Min adjusted his coat. "Chairman, you are vulnerable to emotional influence right now." Haram's smile was thin. "And who decided that?" "The man who medicates me before breakfast." Cheolmin stepped in smoothly. "Nephew, no one is against you." Nayila looked at him. That was the most dangerous lie in the house because it sounded almost kind. She unfolded her notes. "I wrote down the timing for 5 days." Abina stiffened near the door. Nayila continued anyway. "Medication is given before meals. Food is removed quickly. The chart says refused care when no one waited. Confusion increases after evening injections and after tea from the separate silver pot. Your uncle receives medical updates before you do." Dr. Min's face went pale with anger. "You have been spying?" "I have been paying attention." Cheolmin's voice lowered. "Miss Carty, your mother has worked here a long time. It would be unfortunate if your behavior made her position difficult." That was the threat. Clear enough for servants. Soft enough for rich men. Haram pushed himself higher against the pillows, jaw tight with effort. "Do not threaten Abina in my room." Cheolmin turned to him. "I am protecting household order." "No," Haram said. "You are protecting silence." Nayila looked at him then, truly looked. The sick man beneath the silk blankets was still there. Not restored, not safe, but awake. Later, when the others had left, Haram asked her quietly, "Why risk your mother's work for me?" Nayila adjusted the water glass beside him. "Because nobody should have to become useful before they are cared for." He absorbed the words. They entered deeper than she intended. For most of his life, Haram had believed usefulness was the price of being kept. Power made him valuable. Fear made him safe. Wealth made him surrounded. Illness had revealed the terrible truth. Surrounded was not the same as cared for. That afternoon, He called his loyal security chief, Baek Yizin, to the bedside when no one else was present. "Preserve my medication logs," Haram ordered. Yizin bowed. "All of them, Chairman?" Haram looked toward the tray Nayila had left by the window. The bowl was empty. His voice hardened. "Everything that entered this room." That night, Cheol-min received word that Haram had requested private records. For the first time since the illness began, the uncles stopped smiling. Yoon Cheol-min chose midnight because sick men were weakest when the house believed itself asleep. Rain pressed softly against the windows of the master bedroom. The chandelier had been dimmed. The machines beside Yoon Haram's bed glowed pale blue. He had been given medication an hour earlier, and his mind moved as if through thick water. That was when Cheol-min entered with Dr. Min Sahak, 2 legal aids, and a black folder. Nayila, who had been arranging the morning nutrition notes near the side table, looked up immediately. "What is this?" she asked. Cheol-min did not look at her. "Family business." Haram forced his eyes open. "At midnight." "Urgent stability measures," Cheol-min said smoothly. "Only temporary authority until you recover." Dr. Min stepped forward. "Chairman Yoon is lucid enough for simple acknowledgement." Nayila stared at him. "He can barely hold a glass." Cheol-min's smile vanished. "You forget yourself."
"No," she said.
Everyone else forgot him. One legal aide placed the document on Haram's lap desk. Nayila saw enough to understand. Emergency control over Murung House assets, voting authority, medical decisions, and executive approvals. Cheol-min was not asking to help. He was asking Haram to disappear while still breathing. Haram's hand trembled as the pen was placed between his fingers. Nayila stepped forward. Song Maiji whispered, "Miss Carty, leave." She did not. Haram tried to focus on the signature line, but the words blurred. His jaw tightened with humiliation. Nayila reached across the tray table and knocked the pen to the floor. The sound was small. The room exploded. "How dare you?" Cheol-min snapped. Nayila stood still, heart pounding. If he is too sick to eat without help, he is too sick to sign away an empire. Dr. Min shouted for security. Haram's voice cut through them, weak but unmistakable. "Enough." Everyone stopped. He looked at Nayila first. Then his uncle. "No document enters this room unless I ask for it while fully awake." Cheol-min's face hardened. "This delay will cost you." Haram leaned back, exhausted. "Then send me the bill when I can read it." For the first time in weeks, the room obeyed him. And when Cheol-min left with the unsigned folder, he no longer looked like a worried uncle. He looked like a man whose clock had started running out. Abina Carty had survived powerful homes by learning the difference between silence and blindness. She had been silent often, blind never. After the midnight signing attempt, she took Nayila into the lower laundry room and unlocked an old metal box hidden behind folded winter curtains. Inside were notebooks, years of them, kitchen deliveries, late-night service orders, staff rotations, specialties, private visitors, medicine trays. Names servants were never supposed to remember. Nayila stared at the box.
"Ma."
Abina's face remained calm. Rich families forget that maids see everything because they train themselves not to see us. For years, Abina had kept records because servants were always blamed first when powerful people sinned. Now those records mattered. Together, mother and daughter compared notes. The pattern became ugly. Haram's worst confusion followed Dr. Min's private evening visits. The worst weakness came after tea from a silver pot delivered by Cheol-min's assistant, not the kitchen. Meals were removed quickly on days when business documents arrived. Medical notes claiming refused care appeared before anyone offered him food properly. Nayila carried the pattern upstairs to Haram. He listened from his pillows, paler than he wanted to look. Abina stood behind her daughter, hands folded. "I should have spoken sooner," Abina said. Haram looked at her.
"No."
"You survived this house longer than I understood." That sentence shifted something in the room. Abina bowed, but this time it was not fear. It was acknowledgement. Haram called Baek Yizin, his loyal security chief, and ordered him to quietly secure the kitchen cameras, staff hallway footage, medication records, and all tea service logs. Cheol-min still believed servants were furniture. He did not know furniture had been keeping time. Nayila prepared the tray herself the next morning.
Pumpkin rice soup.
Warm barley water. Medicine delayed until after food. And beside it, the silver pot Cheolmin's assistant tried to place on the cart. Nayila smiled politely. I'll carry it. The assistant hesitated, then let go. In the corridor, Nayila turned into the linen alcove, where Beck Yuzin waited. She poured a sample of the tea into a sealed vial and replaced it with clean ginger tea from the kitchen. Haram drank only the safe tea. For the first time in days, he did not fog over by mid-morning. By evening, the test returned. Sedative contamination. Not enough to kill quickly. Enough to weaken him, confuse him, suppress appetite, and dangerously interact with Dr. Min's medication schedule. Dr. Min was brought to the master bedroom under security. His arrogance lasted 6 minutes. Then Beck placed the lab result, medication logs, and Abina's delivery records on the table. Dr. Min's mouth went dry. I was instructed to keep him manageable, he whispered. Cheolmin stood beside the window, face blank. Lies from a frightened doctor. Nayila opened her notebook. Then explain why the tea arrived only before business discussions. Explain why his meals were removed early on signing days. Explain why the chart said he refused food before the tray entered the room. Abina placed her old records beside the notebook. And explain why your assistant delivered the silver pot from the East Wing, not the kitchen. Haram pushed himself upright. The effort cost him, but he did it. He looked at his uncle. You did not wait for me to die, he said. You practice. Cheolmin's mask cracked. You are ruining what our family built. No, Haram said. I was still alive, and that offended you. Security moved in. Haram's voice was steady now. Confine Yun Cheolmin to the East Wing under guard. Summon legal counsel. Summon the elders. And remove Dr. Min from this house. Cheolmin laughed once as guards approached. You think soup and servant notes make you strong again? Haram looked at Nayila, then Abina.
No.
They reminded me strength without care is only a prettier kind of weakness. Recovery did not arrive like victory. It came slowly. A clear morning. A finished bowl. A full hour without dizziness. A document read with sharp eyes. A night without the poison tea. Haram remained ill, but he was no longer being carefully pushed toward helplessness. The mansion changed with him. Cheolmin was removed from authority.
Dr.
Min disappeared behind legal inquiries and professional disgrace. Staff loyal to the East Wing were dismissed. Medical decisions moved to an independent team. One afternoon, Haram asked Abina and Nayila to meet him in the sunlit bedroom. Abina stood formally near the door. Nayila stood beside her mother, cautious. Haram looked at Abina first. You served this house when it did not deserve your loyalty. Abina lowered her eyes. I served because my daughter needed food in school. Then let the truth be cleaner than gratitude, he said. You protected yourself. And still, you protected me. He appointed her household operations director, with authority over staff safety, service policies, and internal reporting. Abina's lips parted. Chairman, you earned more than thanks. Then he turned to Nayila. I owe you an apology. She watched him carefully. For how this house treated you. For how I allowed rooms around me to become places where care had no authority.
He paused.
I would like you to remain temporarily as my care coordinator. Proper title. Proper pay. Independent authority. Nayila did not smile immediately. Do not turn gratitude into possession, she said. Become the kind of man who knows the difference. Haram accepted the correction. Then set the terms. My mother's promotions days. Staff protections are written, not promised. Medical schedules are visible to the patient. And nobody in this house uses the word servant like it means disposable.
Aram nodded.
Done. Later that evening, he announced it to the household. The woman who brought soup into this room saw more clearly than every man paid to protect me. Nayila looked away, emotional despite herself. For the first time, the mansion did not feel like it was swallowing her mother's silence. It felt like the silence had finally been given a name. Months later, the master bedroom no longer felt like a tomb dressed in silk. The curtains stayed open. The orchids were fewer. The medical machines remained, but they no longer ruled the room. Haram was not fully recovered. His strength returned slowly. With therapy, clean medicine, careful food, and rest he no longer treated like weakness. Some mornings he walked short distances with assistance. Some afternoons, he still needed the chair near the window. But he was alive in a way the household could feel. Cheol Min faced legal and internal consequences. Dr. Min's reputation collapsed. Abina ran the mansion with quiet authority, and staff no longer vanished when mistakes were made by powerful men. Nayila continued her studies and helped establish a care foundation funded by Murung House for domestic workers, home care aides, and medically neglected staff families. One afternoon, she entered the bedroom carrying soup.
Not secretly.
Not as the maid's daughter overstepping. As herself. Cream sweater. Loose curls.
Simple pendant.
Calm eyes. Haram looked up from the papers on his lap and smiled easily. You still bring soup like it is evidence. It usually is. Against whom? Against anyone who thinks care is small. He laughed softly. The sound filled the room, without startling it. Abina stood near the doorway, watching with the pride of a mother who had seen her daughter walk into danger carrying a tray and come out carrying truth. Haram looked around the room. Sunlight rested on the marble, the open curtains, the clean tray, the woman who had changed the atmosphere before she changed his life. You changed the room first, he said. Nayila placed the bowl beside him. No, she replied. The room was waiting for someone to open the curtains. He held her gaze. The feeling between them was not rushed. It did not need to be. Respect had arrived first. Trust had followed. Whatever came next would not be bought, commanded, or owed. Nobody cared for the sick Korean mafia boss because they thought illness made him useless. But the maid's daughter saw a living man beneath the silk blankets. And she brought him back one bowl, one question, and one open curtain at a time.